without fear, there's no bravery, never try.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Heavybag Heroes. We are 2 days removed from UFC 323, arguably the greatest card of all time. Not really, but I think it's definitely in the top five, and probably in conversations for top three greatest cards of all time. It for sure was the best card of the year. I went back and looked. I didn't go through every single one and every single fight that was on it, but I went back and looked at all the main events, and I was like, man, I don't really remember any of these cards really standing out to me, just like this one did. Kind of a lackluster year for the UFC. We'll probably do like a UFC year in review, ranking the fights, things like that, ranking the different cards. This will definitely go down as number one. What a phenomenal way to end the year. Incredible way to end the ESPN deal and going into the Paramount Plus deal in January. And I'm going to take back a little bit of what I said. I think the Paramount Plus opener, I think it's a great matchup. I think it's a fun matchup. I think they're doing a lot of good things. Unfortunately, it's kind of become WWE. I'm not going to get into this too long. But I think to get these new people watching, you're going to want to put on some barn burners. So it makes sense why Dana and Hunter did what they did. I'm still frustrated about it from the sport aspect. I'm talking about Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. But I think they kind of were just like, hey, we're opening a new deal. We're going to get a lot of new fans, especially with this being a streaming platform. No more pay-per-view model. Thank God. Lord knows how much money I've spent on pay-per-views because I do not illegally stream. I'm going to get into heaven for that, by the way. But it makes sense. It makes sense why they're making the matchups they're making in order to just, maybe gain new fans or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Before that, go check out heavybaghero.com. Get a freaking sick hoodie like this. They're so comfortable, and it's been great to wear in this Texas winter weather. So starting off the early prelims, we had Muhammad Naimov versus Marion Santos. By the way, before we get into this, I will butcher names. I might not even say names because I'm afraid they'll butcher them. So anyways, great fight, very entertaining fight. 21 seconds into the third round, Marion Santos landed a right hook. I believe it was a right hook, and knocked him out. Took him to the ground. Really good fight. Marion Santos, I haven't really been paying attention to him, but I feel like he's been doing really well last couple times I've seen him. I think a couple decisions, but overall a great fighter. Moving on from that, we've got Mansour Abdul Malik versus Antonio Troch. I don't know how to say his last name. See, we're already into it. Middleweight bout. The odds of this one for Abdul Malik he was the favorite, minus 1450, which is just nuts. And he did exactly what Vegas predicted him to do. Got into an engagement, somehow got to Antonio's neck. Just make sure I'm reading that right. Antonio's neck, got the guillotine, and Joe Rogan made a comment about this, or DC made a comment about it. Abdul Malik's back is unbelievable. Like, I feel like the dude just is constantly in the gym with every muscle in his back. This is going to sound so sus of me. Every muscle in his back was just extremely defined and visible. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Pause. But yeah, it was a phenomenal fight. Gonna be watching this guy. Super heavy favorite. Had a really good performance. So first round finish. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. Light heavyweight bouts. This was not fight of the night. They gave a performance of the night, which is great. The light heavyweight bout. I'm gonna try and say these guys' names right. Iwo Baranowski and Ibo Aslan. Now, I don't know if Dana and Hunter put this fight together just because their names are one letter off. Iwo, I-W-O, and Ibo, I-B-O. But this fight was absolutely insane. It started out very technical. I believe Ibo caught Iwo with a right hook to start it off, and it just turned into a bar fight from there. They were just striking like crazy. Ibo's trying to go for the finish. Iwo's trying to cover up, trying to get some back. Lands one back, kind of sends Ibo to the ground. It's going to get really confusing with these names. It was easily one of the most chaotic fights I've ever seen. It's like they just let two gorillas loose in a cage and just said, go for it. Iwo initially was knocked down and came back and got the first round TKO 1 minute and 29 seconds in. It was just so good to watch. It was so refreshing to watch as a UFC fan. just seeing a barn burner. The technical stuff is great. I love seeing that. But seeing some guys just go in there and be like they're at a bar and they're just like, hey, you just talked to my girl. Hey, you talked to my girl. And just threw down with reckless abandonment. It was awesome. It was so awesome. That's not sustainable as a career in the UFC, but it was just great to see, and I'm glad these guys did it. And I love the videos of, like, the average title fight, and it's, like, really slow pace. It's showing, like, Islam Makhachev versus JDM. We'll get into that, by the way, again. And then they showed, like, these two guys on the early prelims fighting for their rent. Freaking hilarious. So funny. I didn't really repeat that well. After that, we've got Edson Barboza versus Jalen Turner. Barboza, my brother in Christ, please retire. I love you too much to watch you get hurt like this. It was fairly obvious that Jalen Turner's size and his range was going to have a significant advantage in this fight. I don't know how he doesn't. Like, the fact he went the distance with Dan Hooker and then lost to Renato Moicano, seeing that his wingspan is 12 feet long, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. But he came out of retirement, put on a phenomenal performance versus a legend in the UFC, a Hall of Famer, if you will. And Edson, Edson's a tank. He's a powerhouse. He looked really good. He was throwing some great kicks. Everything was going really well for him, striking-wise, but he just kept getting outpaced and outpunched, and Turner ended up just putting him down. It was unfortunate. I'd like to see Barboza retire. Jalen Turner, thank you for coming out of retirement. It was really good. Really good fight. Another great one. After this, okay, the early prelims main event. I forgot if they actually call it the featured prelim, I think is what they call it. Marvin Vettori, the former title challenger, versus Bruno Ferreira, an up-and-comer who is a finishing machine. I think he's only got one loss in the UFC. Rest of them come by finish. And he got the win here, unanimous decision. I think he just stayed more active against Marvin. I put in my notes here one of the things that I don't really know how to describe Marvin Vettori. It's like he just stays in one gear. And, like, there were several moments in the fight where Bruno was, like, visibly like, whoa, you might have a chance here, Marvin, and he just never. He is insane at staying at one pace. Like, if his pace is a line, it does not move. It stays at the same level. And I think what happens is, a guy like Bruno Ferreira comes along, and probably the last 4 of Marvin's losses, they come out and, like, Marvin cruises at one pace, and they just get a step above pace with their volume, and it just I don't want to say it overwhelms Marvin, because he doesn't get knocked out, he doesn't get hurt, he doesn't get knocked down. But he just stays at the same pace, and it's like got to be kind of terrifying, but not really terrifying, because there's no threat of knockout, there's no threat of submission from Marvin Vettori, but he is just constantly walking you down. That's like all he does. It was a good win for Bruno. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's going to be a fun guy to watch. He's got several arm bars in the UFC, a lot of KOs. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Marvin, don't know what's next for you, but I guess even earlier prelims. Moving into the main prelims, you've got Nazim Sadikov. I don't know if I said that right. And Fares Ziam. Good fight. Great performance by Ziam, the Frenchman, I believe. France. Parlez-vous français? He pretty much dominated the fight. Spent a lot of time with control, some good striking, good takedowns. Went for 2 submission attempts, 2 of 5 takedowns, and then in the second round, he caught Nazim with a good. I can't remember if it was like a left hook. Yeah, something like that. But it literally happened at the very end of the round, and Nazim was like pretty much knocked out, but the bell rang. And he walked off, and Herzog could have just, like, waved to the next round, but he called the fight. And, commentary team was like, we think that was a good move. He can barely get off the stool. Or he wasn't even on the stool. He was on the ground. So I think that was a good call. Fares looked really good. Man, these lightweights, they always know how to throw down, man. It's crazy. It's insane. After that, we've got Macy Barber versus Karine Silva. In my notes here, if you hear me bet on Karine Silva, just make sure to max out the bet on her opponent. This is the second time that I've put my money, or I've made my pick, Karine Silva, and she has failed me. The first time was after she had been on a string of finishes in the UFC, and I picked her to win. They were all first-round finishes. I was like, surely she'll get another finish. She's on a roll. She lost the fight. She wins the next one, and I think I had bet against her. And then in this one, I bet, for her, and she lost. So I don't really want to talk about this fight. Moving on, we've got Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Terrence McKinney, a former prospect that we were all super excited about watching come up. Coming in versus Chris Duncan, the Scotland native. I don't know how to really describe Terrence McKinney's fighting style, and I'm saying this as a guy who sat at his desk and sent some emails today and did not spend any time in the gym, the MMA gym. I did work out, and hasn't done jiu-jitsu in 2 years and did jiu-jitsu for like 6 months. Really wanted to continue, but just life happens. So that I'm a credible source when I say this. I feel like Terrence McKinney's fighting style is very immature. It's kind of the only way I know how to describe it. He gets out there and he just starts kind of spamming buttons, throwing everything he can to try and overwhelm, which it was working to an extent. But he just throws it so fast, and he's a phenomenal striker. Like, if you watch the stuff he throws, he is accurate, he is sharp, it looks really good. But he just, really tries to go for it and get the finish and get the clip. And Chris Duncan weathered the storm, and he got a hit on Terrence, and then it just went all downhill from there. He almost knocked him out, and then he ended up getting him into a Darce choke or a guillotine, and Terrence just kind of gave up. It's just I don't know. Congrats to Chris Duncan. He weathered the storm. That was absolutely chaotic. There were several moments where he probably could have gotten knocked out. But he didn't go down. He stuck with it and got Terrence McKinney out of there. So I'm curious to see what's next for Terrence. Chris Duncan, congratulations on that win. That was awesome. He was the favorite in that fight, and I believe I picked him as well. Then we've got the featured prelim, Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. I initially picked Grant Dawson because I feel like he's a great, safe pick. His wrestling is just unbelievable. It's that kind of style you hate to watch. He's not fun watching. I didn't watch him. I actually didn't watch this fight until today I went back and actually watched it. But during the time, live, I did not watch this fight because I was like, it's Grant Dawson. He's just going to wrestle him the whole time. And initial thoughts, Dawson looks freaking sick with his tattoos and his cool beard. I don't know why. He actually kind of looks like a scary guy now. I don't know. Before I just was like, is this some 30-year-old dad out of Minnesota? But he's kind of intimidating now. He got an arm tattoo, a forearm tattoo. So, and then he immediately threw an overhand right so hard that he almost fell to the ground and lost all his aura. I think it's just aura. Anyways, Manuel Torres, hadn't really been watching this guy very much. I've seen just clips of him, but oh my goodness. I didn't realize that he only has one loss in the UFC. All of his wins came by knockouts. And he was sharp. I watched this fight today actually, and he was just he had the distance control. Grant was just trying to make some things work, but Manuel was he was responding really well. His counters were really good. They made sense. I felt like they were well timed, well placed, where I felt like Grant Dawson was just trying to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Manuel seems like a very high level striker. Caught Grant when Grant was kind of blitzing in, caught him with a left hook, took him down to the ground, and that was it. So phenomenal fight. This is a first round finish, another first round finish before that, one unanimous decision, a second round finish, another unanimous decision, first round finish, and third round finish. And that is all of the prelims. Moving into the main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Bogdan Guskov. Ended up being a draw. I don't know. The first round was it was all right. Nothing really crazy. I don't know what they scored it on the scorecard. Second round, Jan obviously lost. He got cracked at the beginning. And then just got dominated for the rest of the round, with Bogdan on top. And then third round, Jan had a phenomenal comeback, including a knockdown at the 10-second mark. If Bogdan had stayed down, that could have been a 10-8 round. I don't know. Maybe that's really controversial. But they ended up calling it a majority draw. This is Jan's Let's see what. This is his. I don't have his record here. This is his second draw. I think his first one was with Magomed for the title. So freaking crazy fight. Jan gets knocked down, and then Bogdan gets knocked down and beat up in the third round. Really good fight. Moving into the bantamweight bout, this was, up until this point, this was the most impressive performance on the card. Peyton Talbot versus Henry Cejudo went the distance. Peyton Talbot is a young prospect. His last two fights were not good. He lost, not the last one, but the one before it, and then just didn't have a great performance, but was able to get the win. In this other performance, in his next fight, the fight before this one, but he came out and just fought lights out Saturday night. Like I don't know, maybe it was just Henry Cejudo and he was a perfect matchup because his range and his length and his height was just like, it was just too much for Henry, but I just didn't really think that would be a problem for Henry as much, but it seemed to really be. But Peyton had his number that night. He got, 3 takedowns on him, on the Olympic gold medal champion. So that was an awesome moment for him. But I will give Henry Cejudo his props here. He fought with a ton of grit. Got his eye banged up, took several knees to the face, a lot of shots to the body. But he fought like a warrior. And then Peyton Talbot, last 10 minutes, gave him the Max Holloway, pointed down to the ground, and they just got into it. I love that Peyton gave Henry an opportunity to really go out on a sword or on his shield, however the statement goes. I don't give a crap. Really, really phenomenal performance by Peyton. I need to go look at the rankings and kind of see, what kind of matchups you make with Peyton after that. With Henry Cejudo, you make retirement and you don't allow him back in the testing pool. That's kind of how I feel. He should not get back in. Moving on from that, disappointing fight. Just because I think it was called early. Brandon Moreno versus Tatsuro Taira. He got the KO in the second round, 2.5 minutes in. It was really interesting. We saw a little bit of stand-up, and then we saw 4 minutes and 50 seconds of Brandon Moreno trying to secure a triangle choke on Tatsuro. And, so we didn't get to see a whole lot of the fight or what the potential could be. And then we go into the second round. We see a little bit of the stand-up, and it was kind of interesting because it felt like Tatsuro was controlling the distance. He was landing what he was throwing. Moreno was not. It felt like Moreno was getting frustrated and couldn't figure out kind of exactly what the distance was. I think he got clipped, ended up going to the ground. Tatsuro gets on top of him and just starts the ground and pound. A lot of unanswered strikes, like 30 unanswered strikes, I think is what someone counted on X. And Moreno was up. He was coherent. He was moving around, trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. And then Mark Smith called it, and I think the FBI should investigate him for that. You don't do that to Brandon Moreno. So I think Tatsuro, he came over from a different organization as the champion there, and I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he's got a ton of potential in the UFC, especially after that win. I think he can hang with the big boys ultimately. Then we've got the most unfortunate fight of the year. Alexandre Pantoja versus Joshua Van. Kind of how this went. If you didn't see it, Pantoja immediately starts kind of big brother in Joshua. Getting on him really quick. Goes for a head kick. Joshua catches his leg on his shoulder. And Pantoja goes to fall down, dislocates, and breaks his arm. And then Van didn't engage any further. And Herb Dean stepped into the fight and called it. So I don't know. We didn't get to see anything. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Joshua Van celebrating as much as he did, and that's more just like, everyone feels differently about it. I actually posted the clip of him breaking his arm on Instagram, and I meant to put Alexander Pantoja breaks arm, and then below the video put Joshua Van is now the champion, but I put Joshua Van is not the champion, and there's a lot of people that were very upset with that. Ended up getting like 218,000 overnight, and then it got copyright hit from the UFC crew, which is really cool. I think that's awesome. But yeah, he just celebrated it a ton, and I just don't know. I don't know. I just feel like for me, if I was a fighter and I was in the UFC, I'm not. I work in construction. But I'm sure I've got just as much pride as these guys do. But if I was in the UFC and, I'm Joshua Van and this happens, I just feel like I wouldn't be able to celebrate because it's like, didn't really get into the fight. It's not like you train. It's not like your training camp included any part of like, hey, we're going to catch his leg and then he's going to fall and we're going to hope he breaks his arm by the way you make him fall. It's just not the case. Like, you can't say, oh, I beat you up. Like, he can't talk any trash to Pantoja. And it's just kind of a strange, I don't know. It's just strange to celebrate that. It is strange to celebrate that. I don't know how you do. I don't know why you would, but, it is what it is. A lot of people in the comment sections were talking about Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 3. And I was like, yeah, but there's like an argument to be made that Dustin compromised Conor's leg. And Conor's an idiot for having a pre-existing injury on that leg and then trying to blast leg kicks against a guy who destroyed your legs in the last time you fought. It's just it was a stupid move by him, and he was getting the crap, beat out of him. Conor got everything he deserved leading up to that fight. That's a whole different story. But yeah, Joshua Van is now the flyweight champion. I like him. I want to see the rematch. The unfortunate part is, like, we don't know how long Pantoja is going to be out, so there's like a possibility that Joshua's like, hey, I'm good, I'm ready to go, and he wants to come back sooner than later and defend the belt. But we'll see what sooner than Pantoja heals. But I do feel like, and I am no doctor, nor have I broken my arm. I have broken my hand. I feel like an arm injury is easier to come back from than a leg injury. I'm trying to think of there was a UFC fighter I was thinking of today, I can't remember to save my life, who had like an ACL blowout and then pretty much just like never came back or was never the same after it. I mean, Chris Weidman's a good example. Anderson Silva's a good example. They blew out both their legs. And they started losing from there. So yeah, we'll see what happens. You don't really hear that much about guys who get their arms snapped. Like, I'm trying to think. Kevin Holland broke that one guy's arm, and he's already been back fighting. He's had 2 fights this year since he broke his arm. So, anyways, moving on from that, Jamal Hill 2. Sorry, a little side tangent. The freaking fight of the night. Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. An absolute insane fight. Probably the greatest title performance I've ever seen in my life. And I've been watching since like 2010. It was just truly a masterclass by Petr Yan. And there's an interesting aspect and component of the Merabs and the Islams of they look like really good strikers. And they come out and they look like phenomenal strikers. Merab at the beginning of the fight was really standing up and trying to trade with Petr and was having a ton of success. But I'm like, and Petr proved this, Saturday night, that if you can take away that wrestling, they're just not that good of strikers. And Petr Yan did. He defended 2 of 29 takedown attempts and got 5 of his own versus the takedown machine. For context, the last time they fought, Merab shot for 47 takedowns. And he didn't get, I think he got like 12 maybe, which is an insane number in a fight. But it was just a beautiful performance by Petr Yan. He just, once he started defending the takedowns more and more, he was getting more comfortable striking, and the only times he got taken down, he got up immediately afterwards. Just got incredibly comfortable with the striking, was compromising Merab and his body and his head and his leg. He had an answer for everything that night, and Merab couldn't do anything. There was nothing Merab could do. The commentary team, they had me tripping out because I was watching the fight and I felt like Petr Yan was like decisively winning it, and they just like, I think it was the end of the 3rd round. DC was like, this is a razor sharp close fight. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I don't know if it's like considered on the judges' scorecards, if you go for takedowns like consistently, if that's like you get a plus. It almost feels like this is where, the Dagestanis and the Merabs take advantage of takedown, or take advantage of the wrestling and the scoring system of UFC, because it's like just going for a takedown, even if you don't get it, is like a positive on the judge's scorecard. When I think, and I'm just a dumb idiot, where I think casual, super casual here, I think that if you deny a takedown, that should be a positive for you on the scorecard and one taken away from the person shooting the takedown. Because it was just so obvious, you're not, as a strike, you put a striker versus a striker. If you put a striker versus a wrestler, they're not going to be able to, purely off of striking, defend this guy from getting to them. And when you put him in a cage, it's just like easy to get the takedown, more easy to get the takedown than not. And so it just doesn't make sense why a defended takedown would not count as a point for you. On the scorecards, even though it kind of felt, I guess, like it did in this fight because Piotr was getting it done. I'm just like, this guy's a better fighter. The guy whose main component, whose main thing is wrestling, that has been completely stripped of him because this other fighter is denying those takedowns, and he should be rewarded for that. So, really good fight. Phenomenal performance by Piotr Jan. Just defended the takedown so well. So well. Like, usually Merab defaults to kind of the, like, just engaging with the clinch and then going for takedowns, engaging in the clinch, getting his hands, tied together and take it down. And Piotr Jan got out of it every time. He was just using incredible methods to break the guard. Like, one time he stuck his knee in there to break the leverage of Merab's hands so he couldn't get him wrapped around him. And, it was just incredible. He's probably like, I think I'm about to triple down on my Islam Makhachev take from a couple weeks ago. No one is going to go back and rewatch Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. And people are like, it was a phenomenal performance. You're a casual for saying it's a bad fight. You don't understand anything. People are already going back and watching this Piotr Jan masterclass. Because it's exciting. He did well. There was a ton of wrestling, but he made it exciting. He denied it, and he beat the crap out of Merab. There was violence in the fight, where Islam does not bring any of that violence in his fights, even like Khabib did. And I think I talked about that. Like, Khabib, at least brought violence to the fight, but Islam's just like, he's not scary. He's not scary. You're not scared of what he's going to do to you. But Piotr Jan, man, good Lord. I'm telling you, like I said, Merab shot for 27 takedowns. Normally, like, I almost didn't watch this fight. I had a moment where I was like, man, do I really want to pay money for this card? It's just going to be the same thing over again. Merab's just going to get him up against the fence, clasp his hands, and he's going to try and break the record, go for 60 takedowns. And I almost didn't watch it. Obviously, I'm so glad that I did. Super, super great fight. Super great fight. Overall, I would just give the card a grade A. It was a great fight. It was a great card. Like I said, best card of the year. Except for Pantoja. That part's really hard and kind of sucks. Sucks for the division. Sucks for him. Hope he recovers well. But yeah, I'm super glad Piotr Jan's back at the champion spot. I hate the way he lost it. I hate the way, a couple of his fights went, there were a lot of people would say very close, so he should have won, like the Sean O'Malley fight. I really want to go back and watch that now. But yeah, he is just a freak. He's the fighter's favorite fighter. I mean, even Dustin Poirier and Jorge Masvidal were both singing his praises on a podcast the other day, or podcast clip at least. I don't know how long it was. Dustin was just talking about, like, man, when you have someone that technical and that violent, it is just like, it's incredible to watch. So this is gonna be one of those fights you're gonna tell your friends to go watch. But alrighty, that's all we got. UFC 323. We got 6 weeks of nothing. 6 weeks of no UFC. Hopefully I'll be able to put up some content. Don't know what kind of content I'll put up, but we'll do something. And then kicking off the Paramount Plus card. Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. We've got Brandon Royval versus Manuel Cape. I don't know if it's this week or next week, but sorry, I'm a terrible UFC fan. Oh, I'll just tell you right now. Hold on. Brandon Royval, Saturday, December 13th, UFC Apex. Wow. ending the year in the Apex after being in T-Mobile Arena, Kudos Bank Arena. Oh no, sorry, I'm looking at the. Gosh, I'm an idiot. I'm looking at the wrong stuff. After being in T-Mobile, Abu Dhabi, Madison Square Garden, now we're back to the Apex. Is what it is, I guess. Everyone, have a great night. God bless. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the like and subscribe button if you have that option.